everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews. Today we're doing another Hong Kong review for Eureka's new album that came out today, which is for Skinny Tiger and Fatty Dragon. Sammo Hong, a 90s buddy cop film, action, comedy, explosions, crazy fight sequences, and a lot of Bruce Lee kind of, inspired impressions kind of thing. Complete wacky film. First time watching it myself. First UK debut ever been released in the brand new, I think, 2K scan transfer and packed full of extras. This is a really nice, glorious edition from Eureka. I'll give you a quick show there. Features a bonus disc which is limited to about, I think, 2,000 copies or 3,000 copies, which is a feature-length documentary of one of the villains, one of the actors from the actual film itself, showing his time, exploring his time through Hong Kong cinema and him being friends with Sammo Hong and all that kind of jazz. Just a really kind of jam-packed edition for fans of this film. So let's dive into Sammo Hong's 90s kind of buddy cop film and let's see if it holds up.
Hello， 咁夜仲唔收工？你唔驚啊？驚乜人？呢度成日有人打劫㗎。哦。
Skinny Tiger and Fatty Dragon was released in 1990, directed by Karl Maka, who also did The Odd Couple, another Sammo Hong film during the end of the 70s leading into the 80s. A film I haven't got around to watching just yet. It's the Hong Kong's Legends DVD. I might go around to watching this soon, but it is getting a brand new kind of 2K transfer from Eureka, I think also in March, so I might check this one out first and then do a separate review for the Eureka edition. So the director's been around for a while. He's also a stunt guy, he's also a performer, he's been around loads of different types of movies. He's also got a lot of different directed films on his belt. This just happens to be another one on that list for sure. Very good director from what I've seen so far. And oddly enough, watching the film, it definitely feels like a 90s kind of Hong Kong movie, or just a 90s movie in general, even though it is the start of the decade and it leads into this kind of new wave of Hong Kong movie comedy action films that we're seeing during that kind of time. But saying that, this definitely is a Sammo Hong film through and through for sure. And one of the things I have said before within Millions Express and a lot of other kind of Sammo Hong films, I am very much kind of in the middle half the time with him. He delivers fantastic movies and he delivers some kind of okay ones or some questionable ones on the way. This definitely feels like a riff on the kind of Lucky Stars kind of movies in that sense, or this kind of new wave of early 90s kind of Hong Kong comedies, or even kind of like the Western approach to their kind of comedies, buddy cop movies kind of thing, and there's a lot of them during that kind of time for sure. I can see why, because hey, get two very distinct kind of actors, very different kind of personalities, different styles. Maybe one's good at fighting, maybe one's good at kind of gunplay, or kind of one's the mouth, one's the quiet one kind of thing. It's that kind of odd couple type thing, literally the odd couple type thing. And I think the chemistry does work between Sammo Hong and Karl Maka in this one for sure, even though I'm not really familiar with the Karl Maka as an actual actor, as a performer. I think this is the first movie I've ever seen of him. I know he's from the kind of, I think, Go Aces movies in a sense. So like the Ace Go Places series kind of thing, which I've never seen any of those films. I don't know really much about him. First introduction to that kind of performer, the kind of character that he's kind of known to play. And he's really fun in the film for the most part kind of thing. And I think he definitely is the polar opposite to what Sammo Hong does. Sammo Hong's kind of character in this one is definitely much more quieter, reserved, very much a Bruce Lee kind of inspired kind of take on his character, doing a lot of mannerisms and doing a lot of the same kind of fight sequences and stunts as him. He's definitely more the performer, the action side, but also offers his style of comedy also, which is great. And Karl Maka is definitely much the mouth in the sense, the bit of the cheat, the sleazeball, the guy that's getting both of them in kind of trouble, the guy doesn't pay for the bill kind of thing. And he's definitely a lot more aggressive and a lot more kind of cocky in terms of his kind of character, and they kind of work together quite nicely. And one of the things I have said previously in other reviews is that with Sammo Hong, I like it when he's collaborating with other performers. I think when he's just left to his own devices, you definitely get a kind of toss of the coin in a sense. You don't know what kind of movie you're going to get, and this one definitely falls into the Lucky Stars movies, but not as kind of, I'd say, pervy as they want, even though it is a bit kind of very much of that time, and definitely it's kind of exploitation of women in the film also, which I'll get to later on. You're probably wondering, Andrew, what do you think of Skinny Tiger and Fatty Dragon? I thought it was fun until it wasn't. And that's my honest opinion. And one of the things I do with kind of a lot of the Hong Kong reviews, if you've been with the channel, if you've watched my previous kind of reviews and listened to kind of my opinions as I've gone on to each film, I go into these films blind as much as possible. This film, I had very little clue what it was. I didn't know if it was a serious film, didn't know if it was a straight up comedy. I knew it had Sammo Hung in it. I knew it had some pretty fun fight sequences. I knew it's got a really nice premium edition. I would describe this film as very much a middle of the road type of movie. And what I mean by that is that it's kind of just fun and kind of enjoyable kind of thing. And it's not amazing, it's not terrible, it's just middle of the road. I think all of its kind of ideas, whether it's the story, whether it's the characters, whether it's the comedy, the way it's presented, the way it looks, the way it's kind of, you know, the full package. What is the film? I think it's very much in the middle. I think it's kind of oddly enjoyable. It's got a lot of familiar faces, it's got a lot of great sequences, but also it just kind of doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of really doesn't take you on much of a journey. It doesn't really kind of elevate anything really, to be honest. It kind of just drags along its kind of ideas, and it doesn't kind of, it definitely feels very much kind of improv a little bit in sort of places, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, for every bad joke there's a really good joke in there also, but for every good commentary there's a bad one in there kind of thing. It's kind of, you know, acknowledging certain kind of, you know, new trends within the 90s kind of culture, kind of zeitgeist kind of thing, but also still doing the same stuff anyway, even though it's acknowledging it a bit more. It's kind of like just a bit back and forth on itself. And I thought the first portion of the film was really fun. I thought it had a lot of energy. It was rapid fire kind of in terms of its comedy, in terms of its chemistry between Sammo Hung and Karl Maka's character, and just this kind of buddy cop kind of nature, kind of back and forth, just, you know, stopping the bad guys. I was laughing quite a lot towards the first. Really fun. And I thought, damn, I'm liking the energy in this, I'm liking the feel of this. I absolutely love that first opening sequence in that kind of gas station kind of, you know, convenience store type thing with the robbers coming in, and Karl Maka's character is just literally riffing on them and just taking the piss and beating the shit out of them, and it's really fun, and he's having a lot of fun in the scene, and you know, the comedy and the dialogue is really fast and witty kind of thing, and it's nice to have an introduction to that kind of, you know, his performance, his kind of character. He definitely is hammering it up, he definitely is going way overboard in some sequences, especially towards later on, but it's really fun, and I think it definitely works quite well with Sammo Hung's more kind of quieter, reserved type of characterization in this film, where he's playing a bit more of a Bruce Lee inspired kind of, you know, throwback. I really enjoyed their partnership in the film. I really enjoyed their friendship. I not enjoy a film where Sammo Hung's just dancing in the middle of a kind of dance floor with two women, and he's just kind of like, you know, doing these terrible moves. I think the action sequences are pretty fun. They're not like, you know, outstanding or kind of, you know, mind-blowing, but they're really fun. Sammo Hung definitely is just, you know, nailing it 100%, just doing it without a sweat. You know, even with his limited kind of choreography kind of sequences, they're really fun to watch, and I really enjoyed all the action that was in the film, definitely towards the start, and even towards the end, his fight sequence also, with the main kind of Kingpin boss, just great, really lots of fun. He's having a blast for sure, and they're definitely playing to their own strengths. Definitely, they both each get their own moments, definitely each get their own kind of backstories, and kind of, you know, one's looking after his father, one's got a girlfriend, but also is about to kind of leave her for another, and it's just he stops a kind of assassination kind of attempt by this kind of foreign hitman, and it's just a bit wacky. There's a lot in there in terms of the characters, in terms of who they are. It's a really fun sequence that I actually thought I really enjoyed, which was them chasing down this kind of like informants, in a sense. You know, there's cocaine being hidden inside of a bra, and obviously typical kind of Hong Kong and Sammo Hung fashion, they have to go and find this woman to get the cocaine out, and they get mixed up between this man who's dressed up as a woman, and that goes back and forth, and also leads to a kind of a groping sequence. And the funny thing is, the actual film acknowledges this stuff a lot more than a lot of other kind of earlier kind of Hong Kong movies. They get into the next scene after they're in a lineup being pointed out by the woman that's being assaulted, which I thought was really, really funny to do. And I felt actually was quite refreshing, because one of the things that within all kind of Hong Kong movies, there is an element of kind of, you know, women being the butt of the joke a little bit, especially within the Lucky Stars movies, you know, kind of thing. Sammo Hung is always top dog, he's always kind of like, you know, beating on women, or kind of, you know, mocking them, or has something to say about them, and it's a little bit uncomfortable in places. And I think it definitely comes from how you can see it. Maybe people grew up back in the day kind of thing and see it as a bit more of a light-hearted kind of, just a bit of fun kind of thing, and sometimes that can be fine. You know, other times it can be a little bit too much, or can be a little bit distracting, but at the same time, the film does use that as a bit of an excuse. It kind of like, we're going to do it anyway, but we're going to acknowledge it, and that'll be okay. And it's kind of like, oh, you kind of just, you had something great there, and you kind of just kind of lost it in translation. It kind of works for the first portion, but when it gets to kind of the second half, it kind of just kind of loses itself. Again, Sammo Hung likes to fight women in drag, especially in drag for some reason, or whatever kind of, it's just a bit odd. Sammo Hung has this kind of weird thing with how he approaches this type of kind of material, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it comes down to, are we having fun alongside with it? Can we getting on the joke? Is it becoming a bit too mean-spirited? I think the story is just a bit straightforward. I think it's not bad, it's not great. Again, it's very middle of the road. It's very much just a in-between type of movie. It's just, very simple movie, two cops going after some bad guys. Hilarious and Sue kind of thing. Very similar to kind of Lucky Star movies or any of these kind of other kind of, early, late 80s kind of, comedies, Hong Kong comedies. Very simple story, but the main kind of focus, the main kind of intention is on the main two characters, the main two actors, which is the best part of the entire film for sure. So I didn't really mind too much, but I do think as it gets into the second half, with having a mini kind of subplot with this kind of vacation and, opening a karaoke bar, it just kind of brings the whole film to a halt. It kind of just, stops a lot of what's happening in the film. It's just a bit odd. They kind of just quit and they're just like, oh, okay. And then they have to kind of get back into it to kind of stop and finish off the business they were doing. And it's just a bit odd as well. And it just kind of drags on. It doesn't know where it wants to go. It has no sense of direction. It just kind of, it's riffing a little bit. And sometimes it works and sometimes it didn't. It worked for the first portion because I thought as long as it, it has a good end goal, as long as it goes somewhere in terms of its kind of, it's at least by its kind of simple story nature, but it just kind of just goes in a straight line, goes that way and then goes back out this way. And it's just, it's a bit of a odd set pieces of of a movie kind of thing. And film is a bit of fun with two performers having a fun time on screen, some fun fight sequences, some fun comedy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The story's a bit straightforward, doesn't really go anywhere. It's got some bit of pacing issues in places. It doesn't really kind of know where it wants to go, and it's just kind of fine by the end of it. By the end, I enjoyed it for what it was. Would I watch it again? Not too sure, if I'm being absolutely honest. It's kind of very forgettable very quickly for me personally, but I do enjoy the sequences and I did enjoy some of the comedy setup moments in the film. I definitely would recommend it to watch it with someone. I think it's definitely much a film to watch with some friends and watch it with some people. I think you're going to get a lot more of a fun time out of it. But watching it compared to a lot of other movies on the list, I don't know. That's my thoughts and opinions on Skinny Tiger and Fatty Dragon. I hope you enjoy watching this review, guys. What do you think of the film? Please comment down below. What do you think of this style of kind of, early beginning kind of 90s kind of comedies, this kind of new trend of kind of comedies, kind of action comedy based movies? What do you think of that kind of like genre, that little kind of section of movies? There's a lot of them during that time, not within just Hong Kong cinema, but also within the US and UK comedies also. This kind of quaint kind of, two kind of characters coming together to have a bit of fun on screen. There's definitely a bit of a wave of those type of movies, and I think this one for me doesn't quite work as well compared to what something like Drive, for instance. Drive is just pure gold for me. Eureka have pulled out a really fantastic edition, brilliant kind of limited edition set with a bonus disc also. If you like the film, if you want to check out a really fun kind of 90s kind of kickback kind of comedy with a bunch of friends, have some takeaway, this definitely is one for sure to check out, but just don't expect too much. Until next time, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.